What screams I'm terrible with money? Filling your giant swimming pool up, then being unable to pay the water bill, resulting in your water being shut off for months, forcing you to use the pool water for your water needs, as in flushing the toilet, cooking, drinking, etc., until the health debt catches wind of it and has your kids taken. Then you go around the neighborhood knocking on doors asking your neighbors for money to pay your water bill so you can get your kids back. They will come take your kids in this state if your house is without water for X days because it's considered uninhabitable. Having Rent a Center come out with a giant TV and living room suite. Having Comcast come out the same day and turn on your cable, but not paying your electric bill, so 3 days later you're knocking on your neighbor's doors asking for money to pay your electric bill because it's been turned off. Then sneaking onto same neighbors' porches at night and plugging extension cords into their porch outlets. These were my old neighbors. Joining the military and then buying a brand new Mustang or Camaro as soon as you get out of basic training. I once knew a waitress who complained about never being able to afford anything, then bought a brand new car. OMG, I can't afford my college textbooks. Then takes a cruise in Mexico the next week. My doctor visit is $30. OMG, I hate America. Then proceeds to buy $80 eyeshadow. I have a friend who was recently working a lower wage hourly job, car mechanic of some kind. He has a juvie record, never been had responsible for much in his life. He recently inherited about $30k and decided to buy a new truck, new gaming computer, and then packed up his stuff, his fiancée, and moved from Central Texas to Colorado in hopes of opening a marijuana dispensary. Within 3 weeks, he was broke and moved back to Central Texas, but had to borrow money the first week back to be able to eat. I mean, there was no thought as to how he was going to start up a business. He just knew he wanted to legally sell weed in a state oversaturated with other legal weed brokers. He's good at playing video games though. My old roommate was terrible with money. She couldn't afford her car payment, so she went out and got a brand new car so she wouldn't have to make a payment for another month. I'm not kidding. No idea how she got approved for the loan. Had a friend do this. When I got a very small incremental raise, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "You should buy a new car." At the time, I had a relatively new, paid off Nissan Sentra, and I couldn't grasp why incurring a new car payment would be a good option. Lots of nicely done tattoos, but complains about not having enough money for basic necessities. Friend and her fiancé are saving to buy a place together. The friend works her ass off, is very frugal and saves up a lot. Meanwhile, the fiancé bought a plot of land and a trailer to put on said land without telling her. She found out when she saw the massive withdrawal in their joint bank account. Finance trims. Asking you what they should buy because they have a little left over from their paycheck. Save it. Fun money is fine. But if you don't even know what you want to waste money on and it's just burning a hole in your pocket, just freaking save it. Crying to me that she can't pay her rent and skips meals so that her cats can eat. Next weekend charges 1k on cosplay items because it's an investment. These are high quality and will last me 4 years. Also, she buys small bags of $20 designer coffee. Well, let's see. My ex-father-in-law was incredibly bad with money. He would constantly buy and trade in new cars over and over again. I'm talking 60k cars too. New trucks, Jeeps, a Corvette, everything. In a year he'd easily go through 4 new cars at minimum. But oh wait, it gets better. He took an early withdrawal out of his 401k, paying penalties and all, to buy a Corvette while they offered 0% financing. On top of that, I found out he was taking multiple home equity loans out. He bought his house in 2003 for 80k and now owes 165k. All of this while constantly spouting to everyone about how, if you work hard, you can have these things too. Let's just say I'm happy to be out of that family and not with my ex anymore. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. A formerly $100k car, while it may have depreciated to now being cheaper than a new Camry, the maintenance and mechanical parts have not. S-Class Mercedes from 2002 aren't exactly known for their reliability. First date. I know that my profile says I wouldn't date someone in considerable debt, but I'm actually 8 grand in debt. What did you buy? Go to uni. Nah, just stuff. Never having money when you have a decent income. Ostentatious displays of alleged wealth flossing. People who don't have a lot of money, but who want others to assume they do, often drive the cheapest cars offered by luxury auto brands and or festoon themselves in branded clothing and accessories that scream branding with huge and or repetitive logos. A good example is a Louis Vuitton or Coach bag vs an Hermes Birkin bag. The LV or Coach bag seems expensive to most people and has the brand logo plastered all over it. The Hermes bag is both legitimately and shockingly expensive, and even having the opportunity to buy one isn't a guarantee. Yet the Birkin really has no branding on it at all. If you're rich enough, you'll know what it is without having to have the brand screamed at you. Driving a Mercedes when you have a second chance checking account. Uses their bank balance rather than a budget to determine whether they can afford something. My bank account. Financing a puppy. If you're gonna buy a sofa for PS6, 000 only pay PS2, 000 and get the other PS4, 000 on finance. That means you can get more stuff. It's what I did. Don't get me anything for my Christmas, because I'll not be able to get you anything. I'm so broke, I can't spare PS10 inches. This was the same person. I didn't spend PS6, 000 on a sofa like they did. Joining an MLM. Only $2,000 for my starter kit. Great. Making $300 plus as a bartender in a night. Goes on a all-inclusive vacation every couple months. Goes out drinking almost every night. Finished nursing school 1.5 years ago and still hasn't written her licensing exam. Complains that she's gonna be paying off student loans forever. Girl, you cold've paid off those loans in a year with the money you're making. Not to mention you live at home, and all major expenses are paid for. It's weird really. It's almost like people want to be stuck at the bottom. I got my living room set at Rent a Center. A mother who comes in to speak to the teacher of one of 5 children to tell her she's finding it hard to afford to feed her family, what with having to pay for 6 mobile phone contracts. My wife was the teacher, which is how I know about it. Talks about their 293,928 different loans. You know that one person who has lots of weed and alcohol but can't pay rent? My sister. When our dad passed away in 2007, she received about $75k in 2 vehicles that still needed to be paid off. The payoff amounts for the 2 vehicles, 2004 and 2005 models, were $3k and $6k. Instead of doing what everyone else is thinking, she gives them back to the dealer and then buys 2 different vehicles for about $60k. A new 40 TV, large for that time, and new carpet installed that very same day for about $3k. She gave me $5k, and I made that last for 11 months. She blew through hers in about 5 weeks. Now, she is almost disabled. Had to move 3 times due to her husband refusing to work, and threatened to kick my ass when I called him out on that. 2 very autistic kids. Receives government assistance for the kids, and is always broke. I know 5 people that fit this exact description. Brand new Subaru WRX. Brand new iPhone X, or newest flagship phone every year. Hundreds of dollars each week spent on vape gear and juice. California minimum wage job, $11 an hour. Lives at home with parents, which may save them money in the long run, but doesn't do them any favors with their present spending habits. I have learned from others never to let them borrow money from you. They won't just never pay you back. They will get pissy and threaten you if you try and press the issue. Apparently their families are connected to Triad, which here in Irvine CA is an actual possibility, so you have to actually be careful if you don't want strange things to happen. A $50k truck in front of a trailer park. When they eat out every day of the week and always grab a snack at the gas station anytime they leave their house. Also, they have at least 5 different streaming subscriptions and buy a new video game every month, like a newly released $60 video game. Looking at you, Jerry. The poor guy makes as much money as I do and has no student debt, yet he's always broke. I had a substitute teacher when I was in middle school who told us not to do what she did and sign up for like 10 different credit cards. Even as a kid, I thought that was excessive. Credit card debt. Buying a new TV or phone every year when the old one works just fine. Having kids when you're both already tight on money. You take money out of your 401k to buy random crap. I'm honestly not sure there's a worse financial decision one can make. Serious bargoing, like multiple times a week. My brother-in-law can't afford therapy for my 8-year-old nephew's neurological and learning disorders, but he can buy a motorcycle to add to his collection. You constantly spend money on trips or new phones, but struggle to put food on the table. Bankrupting a casino and squandering millions of dollars of inheritance on horrible business ideas when you would have honestly been much better just sticking it in an index fund and leaving it alone. Making barely over minimum wage and has a $65+ truck with a lease and an insane interest rate, but still claims it was a great deal. They don't have a plan to get rid of debt. This is an actual story of my friend, 26 meters, who talks to me 25m all the time to consult about finances. It's going to be a long story and going to get buried. He finished his bachelor's and then went to a private school to get his nursing degree and racked up a total of $80k in student loan debt and works at a hospital as an IQ nurse, $50k 52k/year. For a while he lived at home with his parents and doesn't pay rent. I kept telling him, perfect, I'm guessing you make close to or slightly over $3,000/month. Just put $1,500 $2,000/month into your loans and you should be fine. You will still have $500 for entertainment and $500 for savings. After about 8 months we were hanging out and he brought up his student loans and how he now has $79k in student loans and haven't even made a dent and now has $2,800 in credit card debt. I was bamboozled. So I asked him to let me check his finances and what he is spending on. $200, $550/month on concert tickets, $600, $800/month eating out, and then spending on average $300 traveling to different states and connect with college friends. Traveled to New Zealand and a few other places, and somehow moved out of his parents' place and paying $450 for rent and $60 for utilities. Oh, and he is moving to Florida to accompany his friend who is finishing his film degree and got a new job in FL that pays the same as in Midwest as an IQ nurse, $50 $52k. Since he is a good friend of mine, I reprimanded him on his irresponsibility. He kept saying he wants to be a travel nurse, visit places, meet people, and get new experiences. He talks about how nice it is to connect with people at concerts who have traveled places and exchange experiences. Quote, it is so inspiring. I want to travel more. I literally ripped it into him and asked him about his future and where he sees himself. He kept talking about how he wants to buy a house and get married one day. Just a bunch of unrealistic stuff considering his financial situation. I had to lay it on him, tell him that does he think his 580 credit score is good and how a low credit score can drown him in debt just from interest. I had to bring him back into reality, explaining to him that very few women would want to marry him knowing he is not financially secure and basically $83k in debt. I told him why was he stupid enough to move to Florida without a pay bump. Consider the significant increase in standard of living, double or more. At least ask for a relocation fee so he can use that to pay off the loans. It took a few months of daily advice and reality check for him to realize the crap situation he is in. He is still irresponsible with money. He spent $150 a month on plane tickets just to visit his family for 2 days and also $400 for a bachelor's party. He also bought a new car paying $300 a month on it with a 3.8 and number 37. April. Not the wisest but slightly better. Last I heard he is finally at $75k in student loans, $1,000 in credit card loans, and always paying over the recommend amount. He learned how to cook and is saving close to $500/month from not eating out. Stop going to too many concerts and saving close to $400 a month. but now his rent is $750 a month and $80 for utility and standard of living. Buy food and stuff and eating out cost double when he was still in the Midwest. He did express gratitude and regret that he didn't listen to me and made these stupid decisions. But he has to bear the consequences. Kids, when you make money, don't always blow it all on the whole travel to get new experiences thing. Think financially and logically for a second. Each time you pay off your loans, you are saving yourself hundreds in interest. Learn to cook and not go out to eat all the time. It is extremely expensive. $15 eating out can last you 3 days if you know how to cook and what to cook. Don't adapt to an expensive lifestyle. Experiences will always be there. Concert, traveling, etc. Countries won't just disappear overnight. Learn to save more money. Don't like my friend, because he will be paying off his student loans for probably the next 5-10 years, and the prospects of buying a house and marriage is definitely out of the picture. Somebody that works a lot but never has money because they spend it all. So not only do they never have time because of work, but when they do have time, they don't have any money. I see a lot of people posting things that I wouldn't categorize as terrible with money. So let's be a little more specific. Not good with money. Living at your means, that is. No monthly savings. Wasteful spending habits, for instance. Cigarettes and excessive eating out. Starbucks. Convenience store purchases, etc. Bad with money. Leasing a car. Excessive fast food and junk food. It may be cheap in the short term, but the health consequences will cost you dearly in the long term. Buying luxury items, cars, clothes, vacations that are at or beyond your means. Terrible with money. Living above your means. Ongoing credit card debt. Rent-a-center. Payday loans. Not necessarily bad at all. Spending on items/hobbies that are within your means, that you get a great deal of enjoyment from, and are cheaper than alternatives. For instance, multiple streaming subscriptions instead of cable/going to the movies. Expensive tools/other hobby supplies. Expensive cars. Video game purchases, etc. Not necessarily a question of money but morality. Prioritizing other items above your kids. Excessive consumption and ostentatious luxury. You may be able to afford it, but it might be immoral when so many have so little. Good guy Warren Buffett drives a Cadillac, not a Bentley. Source: I'm a financial planner. Struggling to pay for bills. Priorities instead. 1. Last iPhone. 2. Overseas holidays. 3. Branded clothing/makeup/tattoo/shoes. 4. Expensive car. A friend of my wife is on every public assistance out there. Food stamps, housing assistance and Medicaid. Yesterday she was complaining on Facebook about dropping her iPhone 8 while at the water park. Holy crap. My bill could fill up this whole page. Couple of bankruptcies. Multiple car boss. Always gets his vehicles from buy here pay here places. Meaning he's paying a ridiculous interest rate for crap cars. Almost went to jail for falling behind on his child support. About $8K. Was crying on his sister's shoulder, my wife, about how broke he is. Then went on tell her about the $400 worth of fireworks he just bought for when the kids come over. My wife just finally stopped worrying about him because she finally figured out that he's never going to ever get it, and his life is a wash rinse repeat cycle that he brings on himself. Throwing cash in the garbage. Pet stores. Petland and furry babies will finance for just $4,200 at 30% interest. That little Morky Sknoodle is yours. People who cash their paychecks at the currency exchange. Thinking credit cards equals free money. They're in an MLM. Buying into an MLM. For me, it's those people that cry and cry about being poor, yet they eat fast food every day. When they go through over 5 credit cards to get to the one that hasn't been maximumed out yet. Rent to own places like Rent-A-Center or Aaron's. If you like spending $2,400 over 2 years for something that cost $300, be my guest. Making well into 6 figures, but regularly having to borrow $200 from your children to make it to the next payday. Anyone you see using an ATM in a strip club. hookers and blow, and running your new car off a bridge with a trunk full of Ghost Dad DVDs that you went to every Walmart and bought until your trunk was full instead of paying your bills and you couldn't even afford periods for your sentences. A friend of mine was complaining about how this country has gone to crap and he can't afford rent as a middle school history teacher in one of the more affluent cities in the Bay Area. Turns out his car payment on his new truck was 1.2x his normal rent, and despite it getting 15 miles to the gallon he frequently drove it 3 hours north to snowboard. Then, he starts dating a girl in a different state and drives to see her every other week. Still complains about rent though. Must be this godforsaken country. Buying inventory for your MLM business. Dude at work barely staying afloat when he was the sole provider of wife and kid. Wife gets a job. Dual income. Situation is even worse now. Always complaining about bills. Either him or family eats out multiple times a day. Dude just bought a brand new 50k truck the other week. The other day he said he doesn't know if he'll be able to keep up with bills. Buying a car when you don't have a driver's license. 11 grand in Steam purchases. Being so thrifty that it loops around and bites you in the butt. I'm talking let's just reuse the old oil filter and save $4.50. Why should I wash my car when it will rain soon? Leave the plug in the tub when you shower. I can use that to soak out stains. Oh, those. I wring out and dry the paper towels so I can reuse them. And my favorite. Who needs luggage? A trash bag will do for now. Usually it's the children of depression babies who pull this sort of thing. But now and then I see kids stashing extra food to sneak home. Mending shoes that are past mending with duct tape or worse. Trying to rinse and reuse Ziploc bags. And that's when I know they've been in some want recently. Sometimes it's sad but understandable. Like the kid whose folks were doing okay before mom and dad both got laid off. The kid who's in foster care and cagey about lots of stuff. Or the kid whose addict parent has him back from foster care when they maybe shouldn't. But darned if that kid isn't going to keep up appearances for his parents' sake. But every now and then, it's something sweet. I noticed 2 boys who were going around collecting unopened packets of snacks and backpacking them as lunch wound down one day. Then, later, I saw them eating the snacks as they waited for their bus and stealthily selling them to other kids for pocket change. So I asked the one about it, and they explained they were that close to getting their little sister a birthday present. They're stepbrothers with a little sister in common and their plan, as 6th graders, was to save up and get her a tablet with educational games on it. They had been mowing lawns, watching other kids, while the parents did chores, basketball tutoring, every kind of odd job and side hustle a kid could do. Officially, substitute teachers are never to give students money, ever, nor are they allowed to give students material items. An article on car detailing from a magazine is educational content, though, and a vacuum cleaner one was planning to set out on the curb anyway, at a specific time mentioned beforehand. Well, if the vacuum doesn't get picked up by the trash guys, who's to know? And if a certain elderly neighbor or 2 have the brother's business recommended to them purely in the course of ordinary conversation, well, there's no specific prohibition on substitute teachers vouching for the responsibility of students they trust. None. I checked. And after they got their sister the pink Kindle Fire Kids edition, they detailed cars at the school's charity car wash benefit and made almost $400 for the local food pantry all by themselves. They have a logo and business cards. Their folks let them detail and wash cars 3 days a week after school once their homework's done, and they paid their own athletic fees this past year. I saw the coach organizing the stacks of crumply bills and solemnly writing them each a receipt. The one kept it in the clear pocket of his binder, like he was that proud of his business. And no matter what class I'm teaching, they always stop and see me. I filled in for their little sister's teacher once, and she stood up for another kid who was being picked on, telling them her big brothers would fix them if they didn't leave her friend alone. Substitute teachers are not allowed to have favorite students, but favorite families are not mentioned anyplace. I checked. I told my friend I was getting a credit card to just build credit and use it for things like gas and such. They proceeded to warn me to be careful because it's very easy to maximum out credit cards fast. Not a great example. but that always struck a chord with me, since I can't ever imagine coming even close to maximuming a credit card out, unless necessary for my state of living / well-being. This was not the case for them, as they still lived at home and worked. I will never understand willingly putting yourself in any sort of debt for frivolous things. When people get into those 3-year phone plan contracts, bonus points if they are already short on money. This makes me feel judgmental, but I think this every time I see someone buying junk food with it. I mean, at that point everyone else in the country is helping to put food on your table. Can you not buy an entire cart full of name brand soda? New Chrysler. Gambling to try and earn money. I used to be a resident manager in an apartment complex, collecting rents and reporting stuff being broken, etc. This guy was always paying his rent in changes. $800 rent coming in like a few dollar one day, a few dollar the next. One time I received $1.37, yeah, in coins, toward his rent. Always a sob story. I mean, I sympathize. I could understand it's tough. Right. It's no problem. I just keep records and balance. Come the 4th of July I saw him with a huge box of fireworks, walking out into the streets to play. Sure, I applauded him for spending time with his kids and making them happy, but priorities. Lottery tickets. When I was 16 years old, my uncle, dad's brother, who was dying from cancer, gave me his car. My dad then proceeded to sell the car behind my back for $3,000. I only had a permit at the time and wasn't driving that much, and my dad said it'd be stupid for them to make monthly payments on a car I'd barely use. I actually agree with his reasoning, but I still don't like that he didn't tell me first before he sold it. But my parents needed to use the $3,000 to pay that year's taxes, because my dad spent almost all of his money on new phones / computers / etc. I was alright with that, because I was only 16, and didn't need $3,000 for anything at the time. My dad was supposed to pay me back over time, except he never did. He continued to buy more gadgets for himself, and didn't make an attempt to set aside anything for me. Now I'm 25, still living with my parents. And I started paying rent about a year ago, but my mom decided she would delay making me pay for a while to make up for the $3,000 my dad never gave me back. I'd be paying $200 a month otherwise, which is still rather cheap, so this gave me 15 more months to freeload off them. I'm ultimately satisfied with the deal, but bitter that my dad couldn't be bothered to do the decent thing and pay back his own son. Some other examples of how crappy my dad is. My parents paid $10,000 towards my sister's wedding, except I should really say parent, because my dad couldn't be bothered to set aside money to contribute toward that amount. It pretty much all came out of my mom's pocket. Also, my mom found him looking at a motor scooter online. He already had one and told him not to buy it, but he went and got it anyway. I confronted my mom on how she always ends up letting him get away with wasting his money, and she said, well, what can I do? Divorce him is the obvious answer, but she still stays with him for I don't know what reason. And yes, he's always done this. It isn't something he just started doing suddenly. Grease. Rent a center. Telling people they're idiots for spending a few bucks on lottery tickets, while believing that giving 10% of your income to a church will result in you getting it back tenfold. Playing the spiritual lottery. MLMs. When their car is worth more than their house. Priorities of idiots. I play Magic: The Gathering. A stressed bank teller who doesn't want any customers to talk to him